In the vast, rugged landscape of Arizona, a lonely rancher finds a silent, soaked Apache girl abandoned by fate. Together, they form an unbreakable bond that transforms both their lives. From fear and silence to trust and happiness, this heartfelt journey reveals the true meaning of family, kindness, and resilience. Witness how compassion can create hope and change destinies forever. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a like to support more inspiring stories. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that a simple act of kindness can change a life. Rain fell relentlessly over the vast plains of Arizona, turning the dry, cracked earth into muddy puddles. John sat on the porch of his modest ranch house, sipping a cup of warm coffee, lost in thought. He had always loved the solitude and silence of this place, though it sometimes felt like a heavy burden. Tonight, however, felt different. The rain was heavier than usual, and an unexplained feeling of restlessness crept through him. Suddenly, his old dog, Rufus, began barking urgently, staring towards the gate. John squinted, trying to see through the heavy rain. At first, he saw nothing but the endless curtain of water, but then something small and fragile moved in the shadows. His heart began to race as he stood up, putting down the mug, and walked towards the gate. As he approached, John's eyes widened with surprise. Standing there, drenched and shivering, was a young Apache girl, her dark eyes wide and fearful, long black hair clinging to her face. She wore only a thin cotton dress, completely soaked and torn at the hem. Her feet, covered in mud, were bare and bruised from walking on rough terrain. "It's all right," John spoke softly, keeping a safe distance to avoid scaring her further. "You're safe here." The girl did not reply, she just stared at him silently, frozen in place. Her vulnerability filled John's heart with a profound sadness, but also a sense of responsibility. Slowly and gently, he reached out his hand towards her, his palm open, his voice calm and comforting. "You can't stay out here," he said softly. "Come inside. I'll get you dry and warm." Still silent, she hesitated briefly, glancing toward the open fields as if considering running again, but exhaustion and cold overwhelmed her. John could sense the internal struggle behind her eyes, the painful decision between fear and survival. Finally, she took a small step forward, placing her trembling hand cautiously into his. Inside the warm house, the girl stood rigidly near the door, dripping water onto the wooden floor, still silent. John moved slowly, careful not to startle her. He grabbed a soft towel and a warm blanket from the closet and guided her to sit near the fire. Kneeling before her, he gently began drying her feet, his movements filled with kindness and respect. As he carefully wiped the mud away, he noticed the small cuts and bruises marking her delicate skin. The quiet compassion in his actions began to soothe her trembling body, though her eyes remained alert, watchful, and wary. "You're safe now," he repeated softly, as if trying to reassure both of them. The crackling of the fire seemed louder in the silence, providing the only comfort against the uneasy quietness between them. The girl continued to watch John, her eyes now less fearful but filled with unanswered questions. Yet, she remained silent, as if her voice had been taken from her by whatever had brought her to his doorstep that rainy night. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside, a quiet bond began to form, a silent promise of safety, warmth, and perhaps a chance for healing. Morning sunlight filtered softly through the worn curtains, warming the wooden walls of the ranch house. John awoke early, as always, but this morning his thoughts immediately drifted toward his unexpected guest. He rose quietly, careful not to disturb her if she was still sleeping. Peeking through the slightly open door, he found the girl awake, seated at the edge of the small bed he'd prepared for her. She held the blanket tightly around her, eyes fixed thoughtfully on the floor. She appeared lost, yet peaceful, as though the warmth of the house had slowly begun to calm her troubled heart. "Good morning," John greeted gently, keeping his voice soothing. "I made some breakfast. Would you like something to eat?" She glanced up, her dark eyes hesitant but curious. For a moment, John wondered if she would finally speak, but the girl merely nodded shyly, maintaining her quietness. A slight smile crossed his face, a wave of happiness warming his chest as he saw a spark of trust forming. In the kitchen, John prepared eggs and toast, humming softly to himself. The simple act of cooking breakfast felt different today. It was brighter, somehow richer, as if this quiet girl's presence had brought something long missing from his isolated life. Placing a warm plate on the table, he gestured kindly for her to sit. "Eat as much as you like," he encouraged gently. She slowly approached, cautious yet intrigued. Sitting down, she began to eat hungrily, clearly having gone without food for far too long. Watching her, John felt a deep sense of joy and gratitude. This simple moment of sharing brought warmth and wealth to his lonely days. As the days slowly passed, the girl remained silent, but her watchful eyes absorbed every detail around her. John, respecting her silence, filled the quiet house with gentle conversation, speaking of simple things, the horses, the weather, memories of his childhood. Slowly, a comfortable rhythm formed between them, woven together by quiet companionship and mutual respect. One afternoon, while John repaired the fence near the barn, he noticed the girl approaching cautiously, watching his work with curiosity. Smiling, he handed her a tool, showing how it was used. Without words, they worked side by side beneath the warm Arizona sun. The quiet harmony of their shared task filled John's heart with contentment. It felt surprisingly natural to have someone beside him, even without conversation. Later that evening, as they sat on the porch, John gently ventured a question, careful not to break their fragile trust. "Is there someone looking for you? Family?" The girl's expression tightened, her eyes darkening with sadness, yet she said nothing. John immediately regretted asking, sensing he'd touched upon a deep wound. "It's okay," he reassured her softly. "You don't need to talk until you're ready." He noticed relief wash over her features, and she relaxed once more. John's patience and empathy were quietly building a bridge of trust stronger than any words could convey. When night fell again, and silence once more enveloped the ranch, John lay awake in bed, reflecting on the last days. He felt wisdom gently unfolding within him, teaching him that companionship, understanding, and kindness were the true riches of life. And despite her silence, he knew the girl was gradually discovering this same truth. John smiled softly to himself, grateful for this unexpected blessing that had arrived with the rain. Together, they were healing each other, slowly and quietly, bringing warmth and happiness to the lonely ranch. Days on the ranch unfolded peacefully, each sunrise bringing subtle changes and small victories. Aida, though still quiet, began to visibly relax, her initial fear slowly replaced by gentle curiosity. John noticed her spending more time near the horses, observing their movements, captivated by their gentle presence. One afternoon, as John tended to the stables, Aida cautiously approached. He turned, smiling warmly. "You like horses?" he asked gently, hoping she might answer this simple question. She paused, her gaze flickering between him and the beautiful mare standing nearby. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded timidly. Encouraged, John moved slowly to guide the mare towards Aida. "This is Daisy," he said softly. "She's gentle, calm. You can touch her if you'd like." Aida hesitated, then carefully reached out, gently stroking Daisy's neck. The horse stood calmly, almost knowingly, sensing the quiet girl's cautious touch. For the first time, John noticed a genuine smile cross Aida's face, a small but radiant expression of pure happiness. His heart swelled at the sight. A silent girl and a gentle horse had managed to communicate in a way words never could. Inspired by her newfound interest, John decided to teach Aida basic horse care. Over the following days, without speaking, Aida eagerly learned how to groom, feed, and care for Daisy. John patiently demonstrated each task, explaining softly, never forcing her to respond. Their quiet interactions were filled with mutual respect, understanding, and growing trust. One warm afternoon, as John watched Aida gently brushing Daisy's mane, he decided to share something personal with her. Sitting nearby, he spoke quietly. "When I first came here, I was alone too. I lost someone dear, and I thought being alone was better. But you know, Aida, sometimes being alone doesn't make the pain go away, it just makes it heavier." Aida paused, her eyes suddenly filled with deep understanding. She glanced at John, recognizing something familiar in his sadness, something that mirrored her own past struggles. Still, she remained silent, but her gentle expression encouraged him to continue. "You don't have to carry whatever hurt you're feeling alone," John continued softly. "I'm here if you ever need to share. Silence helps sometimes, but words, they can heal." That evening, as the sunset painted vibrant streaks of orange and pink across the sky, John saw Aida sitting alone near the porch, gazing thoughtfully at the horizon. Approaching quietly, he joined her, not saying anything at first, simply offering companionship. After a long, peaceful silence, Aida surprised him by quietly whispering a single, hesitant word, "family." John's heart skipped. Carefully, not rushing, he gently asked, "Are they still here? Close by?" She shook her head slowly, sadness filling her eyes. "Gone," she murmured softly, her voice barely audible, fragile as glass. The weight of that word lingered between them. John took a deep breath, choosing his next words carefully. "I understand loss," he finally said, gently. "Maybe that's why we found each other. Maybe we both needed someone to help carry our sadness." Aida turned to him, eyes glistening softly, reflecting gratitude and vulnerability. For a fleeting moment, it felt as though she might speak again, but instead she simply placed her small hand over his, quietly accepting the comfort and support he offered. Sitting side by side, as the evening sky slowly darkened into night, John realized something profound. Happiness and healing didn't always come from words. Sometimes, it blossomed in the simple, quiet moments shared between two wounded souls who chose kindness, trust, and understanding above all else. As weeks gently rolled by, the ranch became a brighter, happier place. John began noticing significant changes in Aida, subtle yet profound signs that she was blossoming like a desert flower after the rain. Though still quiet, she now radiated a gentle confidence, smiling more often, her laughter occasionally breaking through like music carried softly on the breeze. One early morning, as golden rays of sunlight warmed the fields, John spotted Aida standing by the corral, quietly whispering something to Daisy. Intrigued, he approached slowly, careful not to startle her. "You know, horses keep secrets pretty well," John joked lightly, a warm smile playing on his lips. Aida turned to him shyly, her cheeks slightly flushed, but this time, a soft giggle escaped her lips, filling John's heart with genuine joy. The sound was so pure, so sweet, that it made the hardships of life momentarily fade away. Encouraged by her openness, John gently asked, "Would you like to ride Daisy today?" Her eyes lit up immediately, excitement mixing with a hint of nervousness. "I've never ridden before," she finally admitted quietly, speaking with gentle hesitation. John smiled reassuringly, sensing this was a precious moment of trust. "It's okay," he said gently. "I'll be right there beside you. Trust Daisy, and trust yourself." Together, they prepared Daisy for the ride, John patiently teaching Aida each step, from saddling the mare to how to climb onto her back carefully. When Aida finally mounted Daisy, her face reflected a mix of uncertainty and exhilaration. John held the reins lightly, slowly guiding Daisy forward. The horse walked gently, as though aware of the precious cargo she carried. As Aida gradually relaxed, John noticed something remarkable. Her posture straightened, her eyes brightened, and an expression of pure happiness spread across her face. "You're doing great," John praised warmly. "See? Sometimes, stepping into something new can lead to the greatest joy." Aida nodded, smiling, her eyes shining brightly with newfound courage. Riding Daisy, she felt free, unburdened by her difficult past, even if just for this moment. John walked beside them, filled with gratitude for this quiet victory, one more step toward healing and happiness for both of them. That evening, as stars gently illuminated the endless Arizona sky, Aida sat beside John on the porch, wrapped warmly in a soft blanket. A peaceful silence surrounded them, until Aida quietly spoke again, this time with more confidence. "My parents taught me about horses," she revealed softly, her voice clear yet tinged with gentle nostalgia. Before they were gone. John remained silent, allowing her words to linger softly, appreciating this rare glimpse into her guarded heart. Eventually, he replied gently, "You must miss them deeply." Aida nodded slowly, her eyes reflecting wisdom far beyond her young years. "They said horses teach patience and wisdom," she murmured. "Now, I understand." John felt immense pride in her growth, inspired by her resilience and strength. "Your parents would be proud of you," he assured warmly. "I'm proud of you too, Aida." She glanced at him shyly, her eyes filled with genuine appreciation. In the quiet night, beneath the endless sky, John felt a profound sense of fulfillment and purpose. Aida's quiet courage had enriched his life, teaching him valuable lessons about love, patience, and the true meaning of family. Together, beneath the watchful gaze of the stars, they shared a comfortable silence, each finding peace in knowing they were no longer alone. Happiness, John realized, was not measured in possessions or wealth, but in these quiet, meaningful moments shared with someone who understood your heart. Autumn painted the ranch with warm shades of amber, gold, and crimson. Crisp air filled the mornings, and leaves danced gently with the wind, signaling change. Aida grew more comfortable and confident, now occasionally talking about small things, animals, nature, the horses. Yet, whenever the topic of family or her past arose, she would quietly withdraw into herself again. One quiet afternoon, as John prepared dinner in the cozy kitchen, he noticed Aida sitting at the table, staring thoughtfully at her hands. Sensing her distress, he gently asked, "Aida, is everything all right?" She looked up, hesitation in her eyes, before quietly responding, "Someone came looking for me today." John paused, heart tightening at her words. "Who was it?" Aida shifted uncomfortably, her voice barely audible. "A woman from the reservation. My aunt. But, I don't want to go back." Seeing the fear in her eyes, John sat down carefully beside her, speaking gently yet firmly. "Why are you afraid, Aida?" She hesitated, visibly anxious, choosing her words carefully. "She doesn't really want me. She just feels responsible. It won't feel like home." John's heart filled with compassion and sadness, realizing that Aida, despite her newfound stability, still feared abandonment. With gentle reassurance, he said, "Aida, home isn't about blood or obligation. It's where you're safe, valued, and loved." She lifted her eyes to him, vulnerability clear in her expression. "This feels like home," she whispered quietly. His heart swelled with warmth at her honest confession. "Then, we'll find a way," John promised earnestly. "I won't let anyone take away what you've built here, what we've built together." Determined to protect Aida's happiness, John arranged to visit the reservation. He drove there the next day, leaving Aida safely at the ranch, understanding she wasn't ready to face her past just yet. Upon arrival, he found Aida's aunt, Mary, in a small, tidy house near the edge of the reservation. Mary greeted him politely but cautiously, wary of his intentions. As they sat, John spoke honestly yet respectfully. "Aida found safety at my ranch. I only want what's best for her." Mary sighed deeply, sadness in her eyes. "I never planned to care for her after her parents died," she admitted with painful honesty. "She needs love, more than I can provide." John nodded with understanding. "I can offer her a home, stability, and affection. But I also believe she needs to connect with her heritage, her roots." Mary smiled faintly, gratitude softening her features. "If Aida trusts you enough to speak, you've already given her more than anyone else. She should stay with you." Relief and gratitude filled John's heart. Returning home that evening, he found Aida anxiously waiting, her eyes wide with uncertainty. Seeing her, he smiled gently, reassuringly. "Everything will be all right," he said calmly, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Your aunt understands. You can stay." Aida exhaled deeply, visibly relieved. Her eyes sparkled with renewed hope, gratitude evident on her face. "Thank you," she murmured softly, sincerity in her voice. John gently shook his head, warmth in his gaze. "No, thank you. You reminded me what matters most in life. Not money or wealth, but happiness, wisdom, and family." Aida smiled gently, her heart now lighter, finally believing that she'd found a place to truly belong. That night, beneath the comforting glow of the ranch house, they sat quietly, hearts filled with newfound peace. John knew, without a doubt, that Aida was meant to be here, and together, they could build a life rich with love, understanding, and endless possibilities. Winter settled quietly over the ranch, cloaking the fields in delicate frost and painting the mountains a distant, silvery white. The house was filled with warmth, both from the crackling fireplace and from the growing bond between John and Aida. With each passing day, the connection between them became stronger, deeper, and more meaningful. But just as their lives seemed calm and secure, reality intervened. One chilly morning, as they finished breakfast, a sharp knock sounded at the door. John opened it to find two stern-looking social workers standing on the porch, official papers in hand. "Good morning, Mr. Evans," one woman began politely but firmly. "We're here to discuss your guardianship of Aida." John felt his stomach tighten, anxiety coursing through him, but he remained calm, nodding and inviting them inside. Aida hovered uncertainly nearby, her dark eyes wide with apprehension. Gently, John whispered reassurance to her. "It's going to be okay." The conversation with the social workers was formal, tense, and filled with probing questions. They asked about John's income, his solitary lifestyle, and whether he had the necessary resources and experience to properly care for Aida. Every question deepened John's anxiety, reminding him of the fragile reality they faced. Eventually, one of the social workers gently but firmly said, "We understand you've provided temporary safety, but the court will need to determine if you're capable of permanent care." John felt his heart sink, a quiet sense of helplessness threatening his composure. But glancing at Aida's fearful expression, he drew strength from his commitment to her happiness and well-being. "I understand," he said firmly. "I'll do whatever is necessary to prove Aida belongs here, with me." When the social workers finally left, a heavy silence filled the house. Aida stood quietly, tears glistening softly in her eyes. "Are they going to make me leave?" she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. John knelt before her, gently placing his hands on her shoulders. "I promise you," he said earnestly, determination brightening his eyes, "I'll fight with everything I have. You're safe here. You're home." The following days were filled with careful preparations. John meticulously documented their routines, Aida's school records, and even reached out to neighbors and local authorities for support. To his surprise and immense gratitude, the community rallied around them. Teachers, neighbors, and even the town sheriff offered heartfelt testimonies of Aida's positive changes since living on the ranch. Aida observed quietly, deeply moved by the genuine care and kindness shown to her. For the first time, she began to fully understand that she was valued, not out of obligation or pity, but because of who she was becoming. One quiet evening, Aida approached John as he worked at the kitchen table, sorting through paperwork. She gently placed a small, handmade charm on the table, a simple woven bracelet made from colorful threads. "I made this for you," she said softly, her voice filled with sincerity and gratitude. "To say thank you." John picked up the delicate bracelet, heart swelling with emotion. "Thank you, Aida. It means the world to me," he replied warmly, slipping the bracelet carefully onto his wrist. In that quiet moment, both knew no matter what challenges lay ahead, they had found something truly special, something worth protecting. As the date of the court hearing approached, John felt a quiet wisdom taking root within him, guiding him to cherish every small moment of joy, laughter, and warmth shared with Aida. True wealth was not found in money or possessions, he realized, but in the bonds we form with those we love. Together, strengthened by community support and their growing bond, John and Aida bravely faced whatever uncertainty lay ahead, hopeful in the belief that love, kindness, and determination would guide them safely through. The morning of the court hearing arrived under a crisp, clear sky, sunlight sparkling brightly over the quiet town. Despite the calm beauty of the day, John felt a nervous tension tightening inside him. Today would decide Aida's future, a future they had fought hard to protect. Before leaving the ranch, John found Aida sitting quietly in her room, staring thoughtfully out the window. Approaching gently, he asked, Are you ready? Aida nodded slowly, determination mixed with lingering uncertainty reflected in her eyes. I'm ready, she whispered, softly but clearly. As long as you're with me. John smiled warmly, pride and love filling his heart. Always, he assured her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. No matter what happens, we're family now. At the courthouse, the small courtroom felt intimidatingly formal, the wooden benches and solemn atmosphere making the situation all too real. John took a seat beside Aida, holding her small hand gently but firmly. Around them sat neighbors, teachers, and familiar faces from their community, each a comforting presence of support. When the judge entered, everyone rose respectfully. After a brief introduction, the judge called forward the social workers to speak first. They presented reports questioning John's solitary lifestyle, voicing concerns about whether he could offer sufficient emotional support and long-term stability. As doubts filled the room, John's anxiety deepened. Yet, when his turn arrived to speak, he rose calmly, looking confidently at the judge. Your Honor, he began respectfully, I understand the concerns raised today. But love and happiness aren't measured by how many people live in a house or how much wealth one has. They're measured by compassion, understanding, and genuine care. He paused briefly, sincerity filling his voice as he continued, Aida came into my life unexpectedly. I was alone, isolated, unsure about the future. But together, we've built a home, not just a place to live, but a place of joy, safety, and mutual respect. Looking toward Aida with gentle warmth, John added softly, she has taught me more about wisdom and family than any experience or material thing ever could. I might be solitary, but I'm no longer alone. Aida and I have created something real, something worth preserving. As John returned to his seat, the courtroom filled with a quiet, respectful silence. Then, one by one, community members rose to speak, teachers praising Aida's improved confidence, neighbors sharing how the ranch had transformed from a lonely place into one filled with warmth, joy, and happiness. Aida listened quietly, deeply touched by the sincerity and affection in their words. Her eyes sparkled with gratitude and newfound confidence, knowing now she was truly valued. After considering everyone's words, the judge finally spoke, his voice measured but kind. It's clear there's something special here, a genuine bond built from compassion, respect, and love. Aida has found stability and happiness at Mr. Evans' ranch. Therefore, it's my decision to grant permanent guardianship to John Evans. Cheers and applause erupted warmly from the community, relief flooding John's heart. Beside him, Aida exhaled deeply, tears of happiness streaming silently down her face. Turning to John, she quietly whispered, "Thank you, for everything." John gently shook his head, a soft smile brightening his face. "No, Aida. Thank you. You've shown me the true meaning of wealth, it's not possessions, but in love, happiness, and family." That evening, beneath a vibrant sunset illuminating the ranch in gold and crimson hues, John and Aida sat peacefully together, their bond now secure and permanent. As the sky darkened gently into night, John reflected on their journey, realizing deeply and clearly how life's richest treasures were found in the simplest moments, shared with those who truly mattered most. Spring arrived gently on the ranch, transforming the once dry and barren landscape into a lush, vibrant haven of renewal. Wildflowers bloomed gracefully, filling the air with sweet, delicate fragrances. The joyful songs of birds mingled softly with the gentle laughter of Aida, now fully settled and deeply happy in her home. With the court's decision behind them, John and Aida embraced their lives with newfound confidence and joy. Aida attended school regularly, flourishing in her studies, friendships, and self-esteem. John watched proudly, seeing her blossom daily into a wise and thoughtful young girl, her quiet strength becoming an inspiration. One sunny afternoon, Aida returned home from school more excited than usual. Bursting into the kitchen with bright eyes, she enthusiastically announced, "There's a spring fair at school next weekend. We can bring Daisy and participate." John smiled warmly, her enthusiasm filling him with happiness. "Sounds like a wonderful idea," he replied encouragingly. "We'll get her ready." Over the next week, Aida devoted herself passionately to preparing Daisy, grooming her carefully, practicing riding, and even creating decorations to adorn the mare's saddle. John helped eagerly, deeply touched by Aida's happiness and determination. The day of the fair was bright, filled with laughter, music, and joyful excitement. Families and children gathered, smiling and celebrating beneath colorful banners. Aida and Daisy quickly became favorites among the visitors, Aida proudly guiding her horse around, smiling shyly as others admired their teamwork. Watching Aida from afar, John felt immense pride and joy. A year ago, he'd lived in solitude, uncertain about happiness or future dreams. Now, standing here surrounded by neighbors and the warm sense of community, he knew their lives had changed profoundly, enriched by kindness, compassion, and love. As the fair continued, Aida approached John holding a small ribbon proudly in her hand. "We won," she exclaimed, her voice filled with happiness and pride. John embraced her warmly. "You deserved it, Aida. Your hard work and dedication made this possible." Later that evening, as they sat together on the porch beneath a canopy of stars, Aida turned thoughtfully toward John. "You saved me," she whispered quietly. "Not just by bringing me inside when it was raining, but by giving me a home, a family." John shook his head softly, deeply moved. "You saved me too," he replied gently. "You taught me about happiness, wisdom, and what truly matters. We're both richer now because of each other." Aida smiled gently, understanding clearly the depth of his words. For a long while, they sat quietly, simply appreciating the joy and fulfillment they'd found together. Days turned into weeks, and life at the ranch remained simple yet meaningful. Each small moment, feeding the horses, sharing meals, quiet conversations beneath evening skies, became cherished memories. John discovered true joy in seeing Aida's confidence and happiness grow, and Aida finally understood the comforting meaning of family and belonging. One quiet evening, as they prepared for bed, John glanced warmly at Aida, reflecting on their journey. "Aida," he said gently, "remember always that wealth isn't measured by how much money we have. True wealth lies in moments like these, shared happiness, wisdom gained from struggle, and the bonds we build with each other." Aida smiled softly, nodding in agreement, deeply understanding the truth behind his words. "I know," she whispered softly, "and I'm grateful every day." As night settled peacefully over their small ranch, both John and Aida rested, comforted by the knowledge they'd found something priceless: love, family, and the happiness born from simple, authentic moments shared together. Summer arrived with vibrant warmth, painting the ranch in brilliant shades of gold and green. The sun shone brightly, and gentle breezes rustled through tall grass, whispering softly of growth and renewal. Aida and John now lived in harmony, each day filled with quiet joy, wisdom, and meaningful companionship. Aida had become deeply rooted in her new life. At school, she was surrounded by genuine friends, her quiet strength earning admiration from classmates and teachers alike. At home, she and John had established comforting routines, caring for the animals, tending to the ranch, sharing simple yet heartfelt conversations about life, hopes, and dreams. One warm afternoon, while tending the horses, Aida turned thoughtfully to John. "Do you ever think about the future?" she asked softly, her eyes filled with curiosity. John paused, reflecting deeply before answering gently, "I do now, more than ever. I used to avoid thinking about the future because it felt lonely. But you've given me reason to believe in happiness again." Aida smiled warmly, her gaze bright with gentle sincerity. "I think about it too. Maybe someday I can help others, like you helped me." John's heart swelled with pride, deeply moved by her thoughtful wisdom. "That's beautiful, Aida. Your kindness and strength have already inspired many. Whatever you choose, I know you'll make a difference." As days passed, Aida's vision took clearer shape. With gentle support from John and her teachers, she began volunteering at the community center, mentoring younger children from difficult backgrounds. Her calm presence and quiet wisdom quickly made her beloved, and she found deep joy in guiding others toward happiness and confidence. Watching her, John realized their journey had come full circle. Aida, once frightened and alone, was now a beacon of hope and strength to others. The girl he had gently dried and comforted during that rainy night was blossoming into a wise, compassionate young woman. One evening, after Aida returned home from volunteering, John joined her on the porch, the setting sun casting warm golden light over them both. Quietly, he asked, "How does it feel, guiding others like you've been guided?" Aida smiled softly, thoughtfully answering, "It feels like happiness. It feels like I finally found my purpose." John gently nodded, his heart filled with gratitude and pride. "You always had strength inside you, Aida. All I did was offer you a place to feel safe enough to let it bloom." She turned toward him, eyes bright and sincere. "But without your kindness, I might never have known that strength. Your gentleness taught me how to help others. You changed my life." John gently shook his head, smiling warmly. "No, we changed each other's lives. We learned the greatest wisdom, that love, patience, and kindness can overcome any pain." Aida nodded thoughtfully, fully embracing the profound truth in his words. As the stars emerged softly above them, a peaceful silence settled over the ranch, each deeply grateful for the life they'd built together. John reflected quietly, realizing the richest moments in life often came from unexpected kindness, patience, and shared joy. Their simple ranch home had become a sanctuary, a place filled with quiet strength, wisdom, and genuine happiness. Together, beneath the comforting glow of the night sky, they sat peacefully, their hearts forever linked by a journey of courage, compassion, and growth. Both knew their story had not only transformed their own lives but could inspire others to find happiness and purpose as well. Autumn returned once more to the ranch, bringing a gentle reminder of the cycle of change and renewal. Bright leaves drifted lazily through the cool air, their vibrant colors dancing softly on the wind, symbolizing the passage of time and growth. The ranch felt peaceful and complete, filled with warmth, happiness, and quiet wisdom. Aida had grown significantly, blossoming into a confident young woman. Her bond with John had deepened profoundly, now unbreakable. Both had learned from one another, realizing that true happiness, wealth, and wisdom were never found alone. They flourished when shared openly with others. One crisp morning, as they walked together along the fence line, Aida paused thoughtfully, gazing out over the open fields. "John," she began gently, her voice filled with quiet sincerity, "I've been thinking about that night, the one when you found me." John turned toward her, his eyes warm with gentle affection. "I think about it often too," he admitted softly. "It was the night my life changed forever." Aida smiled gently, continuing thoughtfully. "You took care of me when I had nothing. You dried my feet and spoke to me softly, even when I was silent. That simple kindness changed everything." John nodded quietly, deeply moved. "And you changed me, Aida. Your presence taught me about true happiness and wisdom. You made this lonely ranch into a real home." Aida's eyes sparkled softly with gratitude. "That's why I want to keep helping others find their way home too. I've decided to study social work, to help children like me, who need love, understanding, and patience." John felt immense pride fill his heart, deeply touched by her compassionate ambition. "You'll be wonderful," he encouraged warmly. "Your kindness, strength, and quiet wisdom will guide so many." A few days later, Aida stood in front of her classmates and teachers at a special school gathering, invited to speak about her personal journey. Nervous yet determined, she shared her story openly for the first time. As she spoke, her voice calm and clear, she described the rainy night she was found, the patience and love John had shown her, and how genuine compassion had transformed her life. Listening quietly from the audience, John felt his eyes mist softly with pride and gratitude. Aida concluded her speech powerfully, her voice confident and filled with quiet wisdom. "Wealth is not about possessions. True richness is found in moments of kindness, joy shared, and genuine connections we build with each other. Always be kind, you never know whose life you might change." The room erupted warmly in applause, deeply moved by her honesty and courage. Aida smiled shyly, her heart filled with joy, relief, and fulfillment. That evening, beneath a golden sunset, Aida and John returned home together, walking side by side through the familiar fields. John paused thoughtfully, gently saying, "I'm so proud of you, Aida. You've taught everyone about the power of kindness, happiness, and wisdom." Aida looked at him gratefully, smiling warmly. "I learned it all from you. Your simple act of compassion showed me the path." As the sun slowly dipped below the horizon, painting the ranch in shades of purple and gold, John turned toward Aida, quietly adding, "Our story began with a simple kindness, but it doesn't end here. To anyone hearing our story, remember, your compassion could change someone's world. Never underestimate your ability to make a difference." Now speaking gently, directly to those listening, John continued, "If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who needs a reminder of how powerful kindness and love can be." With quiet gratitude, Aida softly echoed his words. "Together, let's build a world filled with happiness, wisdom, and true wealth, the kind found in kindness." As night fell gently around them, both John and Aida knew their journey had been about far more than just finding a home. It was about discovering the profound truth that love, kindness, and compassion had the power to change lives, forever.